Welcome to Doomscrollers Anonymous, where I, Olivia, answer all of your hard-hitting questions on all things digital well-being. I asked all of you wonderful viewers to send in your questions on Instagram and TikTok, and you delivered. I also just love talking with you guys. Getting different messages from you makes my day, and being able to answer these kinds of questions and talk about the things that you want to hear is what matters most to me. If you have a question and you want to submit it for next Doomscrollers Anonymous, you can just send me a DM on Instagram at olivia.unplugged.ig or on TikTok at olivia.unplugged, or you could even just comment it below, but it might be kind of long. Whatever you want. Let's get right into it. Question number 1. This one is from Na Adzo. How do you actually tell yourself to actually commit to something? Keep in mind, you've already done the research, the tips, hacks, everything. You could have even started building the said habit, started the actions, but you always never seem to commit and go back to the cycle of quick dopamine hits, disregarding the actions that you were doing earlier to build the goal/healthy lifestyle, procrastination, and just making the smallest excuses huge so you can avoid making progress. It's so weird. Can't even tell if it's intentional or not anymore. To reiterate, how do you stick to the things that you are wanting to do? I think you point out something really important here. You say that you have already done the research, you've already done the tips, and you have the hacks and everything, yet you still are not finding things sticking. I think an underrated tool that we are not utilizing nearly enough is accountability. Let me paint a picture. You are in a toxic relationship. You tell everybody, your mom, your sister, your best friend, that you are breaking up with this loser. The likelihood, after you've told them everything, after you've told him how he's wronged you and how he has done this, that, and the other, the likelihood of you going back and being like, never mind, because you have accountability, slim. That is kind of how I see it when we are trying to implement better habits, better actions, better choices in our lives. When we have accountability, when we let somebody else into our lives, have them kind of keep us on the straight and narrow, that's where things really stick. Because not only are you doing it for yourself, but you're doing it because somebody else is going to say, what the hell are you doing? If you aren't. I don't think that we are meant to do everything alone. Having people that hold you to a higher standard in all of the things that you desire to do really helps. For me, that is me letting my best friends and my partner know that when I want to do something, this is like my deadline. This is how many times I want to do it in a week. This is what I'm no longer doing. They will check in on me and they will call me out and they'll be like, Olivia, didn't you say that you were going to do this like 2 weeks ago? And then I'll be like, right. Okay, let me bring that back. Let's do that again. For example, if you're wanting to spend less time on your phone, having an accountability partner, having somebody who also has that same desire, doing it together will really fuel the act of it instead of it being something that you are trying to do willpower alone. So, in a nutshell, stop trying to do things by yourself and bring people in to your journey and into navigating all of this so that you're not feeling like you're having to pull yourself along. Also, one more thing. I think that you should really acknowledge what you have actually done instead of just looking at setbacks and the times that you haven't accomplished what you were hoping to. I'm sure that in the time that you have implemented all of these things and in the time that you have found solutions and done the research, there have been small incremental changes, and we have to acknowledge those in order to even feel more motivated to continue that way. On to question number 2. When I'm waiting in a line for coffee or walking in public, I automatically put my head in my phone. It's like my shield. Cry faces. How can I feel less anxious in public when I can't use my phone as a blocker? I'm going to say something, and I'm going to say it as kindly as possible. People do not care. People do not care as much about you as they care about themselves. So when you are in public and you are feeling like all eyes are on you, you have to remember that somebody is thinking about themselves right now in this moment. Even if they looked at you, they might have thought of you for 1 second and then they moved on to, oh, my life. Oh, here's my grocery list. Oh, here are all the things that I need to do. Oh, is that person looking at me? When you can acknowledge that people are naturally just self-absorbed, and I'm saying that very plainly, not negatively, because they're thinking about themselves, you can take that pressure off of yourself to feel like you have to be perfect. So that's step 1, taking the weight off of yourself in recognizing that people really do not care. They're not paying as much attention to you as you might think or feel like they are. And then secondly, it's a regulation thing. You have to understand that from a biological standpoint, we all desire comfort and safety. That is the number one priority when it comes to our body, when it comes to our nervous system, when it comes to our brain. It is always searching for comfort and safety. And of course, from an evolutionary standpoint, the comfort and the safety protected us from dying, from being mauled by a mountain lion. But now it just protects us from being embarrassed. Not the same thing. So when you realize that this discomfort that you're feeling being in public is not actually a threat and that you are still safe, but you're just a little uncomfortable, you don't have to jump automatically to the one thing that you've been trying is the key word, to regulate yourself with, because your phone doesn't actually regulate you. It only causes more dysfunction and dysregulation in your body. So once you understand the fact that your body is trying to regulate itself, and once you realize that you are not in a threatening situation or an unsafe situation and that you're just feeling a little awkward, that's when you can start recognizing that you don't have to use your phone as a crutch. And one little tip I have, instead of grabbing your phone, you can use like a fidget spinner, or like sometimes I play with my keys. Sometimes I'm like touching my zipper, fidgeting with something so that my hand doesn't go straight to my phone. And other times you can challenge yourself, give yourself a 5-minute challenge to think, gather your thoughts, or to observe your thoughts. See what's in there. When we are always grabbing our phones, we're losing sight of the life that is happening in here. Don't feel like you have to go from 0 to 100, but first just start with recognizing that you are not in any danger, that your body does not need to panic and go to something that we think will regulate us, and realize that really nobody cares. Nobody cares. And that should be relieving for you. Okay, a short and sweet. Number 3, how do I replace doom scrolling with longer dopamine levels rather than hits? I think what you're asking is, how can you have a more balanced level of dopamine and that you're not always searching for the big hits? Yes. Thank you, Big Chief Quan. I like that username. Off the top of my head, I think of 2 different tips. The first tip is go where you are yearning to go. And when I say that, I mean, what have you really truly been desiring? What are things that you used to do, used to have time for, where you were like, man, I really wish I could do more of that? Or a hobby that you picked up once and that you kind of left in the dust, but you still have all of the supplies for. And you're kind of like, damn, I need to do this again. I need to pick this up again. Go where you have yearned to go. An example was, I saw a comment on one of my last TikTok posts, and she was saying how she yearns to just read a book in an entire day. And of course, that is, you have to plan for that and you have to schedule that. But so often on a Saturday, we find ourselves scrolling for hours. We find ourselves rotting in bed, laying there for hours. The truth is, we could read an entire book in a day. We can also have things be a little bit more generalized, where, for example, say you get home from work and it's 7 p.m. and it's super easy to just sit on your couch and scroll for 2 hours. This is where you have to deliberately put in your schedule, in your time, things that you are looking forward to, things that you long to do, so that you're not automatically just going straight to your phone every time you have a moment of free time. And number 2, we have to put friction between the desire and the phone. We're never going to choose something else if we have open access to our phones at all times and we can click on Instagram and get that little quick dopamine hit. We have to set boundaries and we have to actually have limits and tell ourselves no. And how I have to tell myself no is by actually setting up things that prevent me from being like a toddler and being like, no, I can do what I want. I have set up my life where I have specific times in my day where I do not have access to these platforms. I also, on the weekends, for example, only have the ability to open my Instagram and my TikTok and my Reddit and my YouTube 5 times. So then I actually have to be intentional about why I'm going on there, or else I'm just wasting an open. And now that I've implemented these kinds of things, I have so much more brain space and capacity to actually pick something up that I want to do, rather than something that just I know would give me like a little bit of like that tingly feeling, but then would pass in an instant. And I would start really small by, once you get home and you're making dinner, maybe just listen to music and don't have TikTok on next to you while you're cooking. Or if you're going to the bathroom, go to the bathroom without your phone. Yeah. Give yourself a few minutes every once in a while of silence. But remember that this is incremental. You have to take little steps, and those little steps will gain momentum, and you'll be able to see a real difference soon. Okay. Question number 4 from Asmita. Is quitting social media and digital detox the only way to be more present and spend less time on our phones? And also, can we talk about the cons of these trends and techniques and what other ways there are to anti-brain rot? I love this question. I've said this before and I will say it again. You will never catch me saying I am chronically offline. Quitting social media and living an analog life and doing a digital detox is absolutely not the only way. I wouldn't even say it is an effective way. We have to understand that we live in a digital age. The majority of us work on screens most of the day. That is just the case. Something that I've had to learn how to do is to separate beneficial and detrimental behavior online. I had a perspective shift where I learned that the internet, that social media, that my iPhone, those things are not inherently bad. And they're tools that multi-billion-dollar companies use against us to buy our time and our focus and our attention, but they themselves are not bad things. Are we expected to chuck our phones in the river and throw our computers off the balcony and sit like monks for the rest of our lives? No. A really simple way to start being more present and spending less time on our phones is with awareness. We don't take enough time within our days to even recognize when we reach for our phones and when we are filling our time with things online. And I don't mean your everyday work tasks or responding to emails or using maps to get somewhere. I mean when we pick up our phones because we're bored or because we're nervous or because we're uncomfortable, when we tap on Instagram when we were supposed to be responding to an email or to a text message saying, I'm on my way, or when we're wanting to have a nice night where we're unwinding and we end up deep in a Reddit thread. Those are the moments that I mean. What is happening? What is the cause? And how can we actually create a system and build protections around those moments? I would challenge you to take some time, recognize when you pick up your phone. You can track your activity in Opal and actually see how many times you picked up your phone and what were your most distracting apps, how productive you were on your phone. And then you can set up parameters for yourself. Once you do recognize maybe habits or patterns, then you can take that awareness and put it into action and cultivate an environment where being present and not being on social media or on your phone as often is possible. And last question number 5 from Dempsey Smith. How do I stay informed about the world online without getting overwhelmed and stressed out, but still enjoying life? Okay, I am a big researcher. I'm a big news girl. I am somebody who loves to stay informed and loves to be in the know with what is going on in the world. Hot take. I do not get that information off of social media. I think that's one of the big things. I hear this conversation a lot of, well, I want to be informed and I need to be, it's more important than ever to be online. But being online does not necessarily mean being on social media and posting to stories about different things that are happening in the world. I think that there are much more productive and more impactful ways that we can spread those messages. And I think that there are better ways to be able to gather that kind of information where it's even more factual. So I have specific areas where I get my information and where I try to stay informed. I really love certain news apps like Ground News, where you're able to see all of the different headlines and read all of the different articles from different news sources and be able to hear kind of on all spectrums rather than just maybe your own opinion or your own echo chamber. I also really love following independent journalists on Substack. And then, of course, I subscribe within my email to different news outlets and news sources. I try to limit when I look at these things. I recently was aware that I was spending time in the morning and late at night looking at this news coverage. It was not helpful. It was not beneficial to me. It was something that was actually like stressing me out and making me feel helpless rather than having a desire to actually do anything and to move forward and to take action. So I started giving myself just 15 minutes. Sometimes it can be right after lunch. Sometimes it is, when I'm walking to the metro. I know I don't really like walking and looking at my phone, but you do what you got to do sometimes, okay? But usually it is while I'm in between work, or I take a 15-minute break and I look at my phone, or it's maybe before dinner and I'm doing a quick look. Those are the times when I try to look now rather than it being right in the morning and right before I go to bed. And I feel like I'm just more coherent and less emotion driven and less stressed and overwhelmed and helpless. And I actually feel like I can absorb this information. I can have a conversation with my partner about it. We can talk about it. We can create a game plan or share our opinions. And then the other times, like I really try to block these apps so that I am not inundated with this information and I don't have anything to do about it. I don't have any place to put it in my mind. Then it's just overwhelmed central and it's not productive for anybody. I kind of mentioned this a little bit, but I really try to have these kinds of conversations with my friends and my family. And I also try my best to put my frustrations into action. If there are different initiatives, organizations, political affiliations that you really genuinely believe in, join these groups. Find ways to put action behind how you're really feeling instead of just stewing in frustration, because that's where we lose the plot. So, to sum it up, know your limits. Give yourself designated time when you feel like you can genuinely regulate your emotions. Dive deeper into these topics, dive deeper into the things that are happening online, and put those things to action in a way that makes you feel like you're making an impact instead of feeling helpless, hopeless, stressed out. I have so many more questions, and let me know if I should do another one of these because I would be more than happy to. And if you're looking for new tools to help support your digital well-being and finding balance, you can download Opal and add me as a friend at Olivia Unplugged. I am a pro at this point, and you can steal all of my block sessions. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss another Unplugged video. And please comment. I read all of your comments. I love them. And you can let me know what topics you'd like to hear from me because I am for the people. All right, that is all for today. I will see you next week. I was just sitting on like 2 pillows because I don't know. I'm a short gal, 5'2", 5'3".